Okay, I think we're going to get started now as everyone is settling down. But welcome to our STEM panel. All of these people that you see on stage before you went to ISEF at some point. You may recognize some faces from the video that we played earlier. And so we're so lucky to have them here with us today to share about their experience. And hopefully you learned something. So if I could have all of you guys just give your name, where you're from, and like a brief introduction about your educational background and maybe what you did at ISEF.
Hey everyone, my name is Danica Lowe. I went to ISEF 3 years. I went in 2014, 2016, and 2017. So I feel very old being here judging you guys. But I went to Auburn University and I studied chemical engineering and I graduated in 2022 and I'm now a manufacturing engineer at a chemical company up in Huntsville, Alabama. And do you want to tell a little bit about my project?
Yeah, you can, yeah.
So my project, I'll give a quick little background because it was a very long time ago. But my project, I developed a hybrid beam that incorporated wood and fiberglass, which is a composite material, to be a more durable, cost-effective, and sustainable alternative to commercially used wood in construction. So that's what I looked at. And it was a continuation project for 3 years, so.
Hello, my name is Austin Norwood. I'm actually from Trussville, Alabama, and I went to ISEF in 2015. So I'm actually the oldest one on the panel. Anyway, I went to Jefferson State Community College for my associate's degree, and I'm currently finishing up my bachelor's in mechanical engineering at UA. And so, never mind. And back in 2015, our project that we went through was a self-powered portable sun tracking solar panel, pretty much to try and gain efficiency over a stationary solar panel. The results were pretty inconclusive, or not inconclusive, conclusive that it was the right thing to do. So. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Suma Ejentker. I went to ISEF in 2019. I'm from Auburn, Alabama, and I went to UAB for school. I did biomedical sciences, and my project at ISEF, I was a part of a team, and we looked at ice nucleating bacteria and the physiologics behind how they work.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Schleter. I'm from Covington, Georgia. I attended the University of Georgia where I majored in cellular biology. I went to ISEF in 2019 and my project was about cell-cell crosstalk and glucose-stimulated insulin secretion in the artificial pancreas.
Cool, thank you. So this can be a question for anyone, but do any of you have any standout people that you credit with helping you in your journey to ISEF, whether it be a teacher, a parent? Who are your main supporters and cheerleaders behind the scenes?
I would probably credit it with two people, one of them being my middle school science teacher. She was really passionate about science, and it was a requirement for us to do a science fair project, but most students, maybe some of them weren't as excited about it. So she was really good about encouraging us to be creative and to do that. So she was probably my biggest supporter on the school side. And then I would also say my dad. He's a mechanical engineer, so he was also a very inquisitive, curious person, and that's probably where I got that part of my brain from. So he was also a big supporter as well. Yeah.
Does anyone else want to answer?
I kind of in the same boat, definitely middle school teacher. I kind of went into robotics on a whim and ended up loving it. It just kind of sparked a passion when it came to engineering and building things and seeing it all the way through. And luckily our high school, we were lucky enough to have a very good engineering program. and our teachers were so supportive and really taught us everything we needed to know in order to succeed within the industry that we're in today. I would also credit my partner that I had along with me. He was definitely was the backbone of the project, especially on the coding side. He was much better at coding than I was. Probably still is. So, you know, but yeah, it's great to have support when it comes to this field, because there's going to be a lot of times of failure, and it's hard to not let it get to you. So you got to learn from your mistakes and move on and do better. So that's definitely great. I'm sure you guys have a lot of mentors that are like that, your parents and things. So
Thank you.
I was going to say, aside from my parents and my middle school teacher, Jackie Middleton, I would like to shout out Dr. Neha Potnis. I don't know if she's in the room, but she introduced me to the idea, and we got to work in her lab. And also Dr. Velarde for pushing us to ISEF and taking care of us there. So, yeah.
Again, besides family, my biggest mentor was also my high school science teacher. She went on the long drives with me back and forth, training between labs, and also waiting for my cells to culture for 6 hours at the hospital with me. I call her my second mom, and I still talk to her daily, and she even came to my white coat ceremony. So a huge supporter in my life.
Sarah, while you have the mic, can you tell us a little bit more? So Sarah actually came from a more rural background in Georgia, and I know that a lot of you guys in Alabama also come from more rural areas. Tell us a little bit more about how that influenced your experience with Science Fair.
Yes, so I am from a smaller town. The biggest thing, and I carry it with me today still, is do not be afraid to reach out. Our next generation of scientists, we need you. If you're passionate about an idea, a upper level scientist is willing to help you achieve that, because one day you will be that person who they are. For example, I reached out to several people. I ended up doing training research at cell culture at Georgia Tech University. They trained me, and then I took my cells back to my tiny, small community hospital. I had to meet with the CEO of the hospital, set up my own meetings, talk about what I wanted to do. And the biggest thing was that I had a huge community of support. And then still today, now that I'm in medical school, I still have to do research projects. I still love to do research projects. And the biggest thing is do not be afraid to reach out to people. Again, everyone wants you to succeed, and also make sure somebody's in your corner when there are failures with your research projects. But that would be my biggest advice. Is I already talked to some of you today with your wonderful projects, and I know a lot of the middle schoolers want to get to that ISEF level next year. And so don't be afraid to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is another question for any of you guys, but after judging today and interacting with so many students, what are some of the biggest changes or things, like either changes or things that you notice like continue to remain true with Science Fair at all the levels?
I think for me, it was so long ago that I did Science Fair, but it is kind of crazy how similar it still feels. Obviously, a lot of things have changed, but it's still so exciting to see students that are really passionate and excited about a project, and that really comes through. I would say that's obviously the technical aspect and how well you can present is a part of that, but seeing somebody that's just really motivated it's honestly a really big part of it too. And so that's something that's definitely still exciting to see, that this next generation of young scientists is still participating in Science Fair and doing the hard thing and, you know, participating in it. So that's, I guess, something that's stayed the same is that, honestly, I don't know if I have a good answer for much that has changed. But it is interesting being on the other side of the table now. Instead of being the student at the board, I'm the judge judging the student. And so for me, it was just really important to remember that, like, I've been in your shoes, and I know how much hard work and preparation went into the project. And so it was interesting for me to take that experience in judging them, and, you know, try not to be like too harsh, but you guys all did like a really great job from my experience. But yeah, it was fun being on the other side of the table this time and seeing like everything that happens behind the scenes. So.
Okay. Speaking of being on the other side of the table, we're going to talk I'm curious, how many people received comments from me or Dr. Dane about their poster or forms? I see a few hands, but I know that just about every hand up here should be up. And I know that it seems like a lot, and it was a lot of little details, but those details are important. And so I'm curious, so obviously some of you guys continued research into your studies, but in your day-to-day jobs too, like what do you still have to deal with rules and forms and all the red tape, and what value do you see in it? Just because it's hard to remember that sometimes. Yeah.
I'll just tell a quick little anecdote. I told a few people with the safety regulations. I was at my science fair right before I won ISEF, and I was on the floor crying, trying to fold my board over because I had missed all of the regulations. But it ended up not mattering. I ended up making it to ISEF, and so that's just my funny little anecdote I wanted to add.
I guess I'll give some background. So I work at a chemical plant, and we have a lot of things that want to explode all the time. And so for us, obviously as an engineer, you have to learn to like optimize your unit, but you have to do things safely. And so we have a whole process. It's called a management of change. So if you even want to change a valve, or you want to add a new line or some piping, you have to go through a lot of steps. You have to get a lot of approvers to make sure that the change you're making is safe and it's not going to have any negative side effects. So that's something like it's very important in at least industry to make sure that you're doing things that are safe. And I know sometimes the red tape and all the stuff, it's not the fun part of it, but it's the important part of it. It's, you know, it's what keeps everybody safe and doing the right thing and making sure that everything adheres to a certain standard. So.
And we appreciate all of y'all's patience and willingness to make those changes for us, because like I said, ultimately we just want to make sure everyone is safe and doing the right thing. Suma, you continued a lot of research in your undergrad. Did it connect at all to what you did at ISEF, or maybe what skills, even if it didn't relate, what skills did you carry with you that transferred?
Thank you. At UAB, I worked in a cardio-oncology lab, so it was a little bit different than what I'd been doing in high school. However, I did have all the gross lab skills, and my PI really appreciated that, and that put me above a lot of the other students in the lab, and the postdocs trusted me more to do these experiments. So what I'm going to say is right now y'all are learning the basics, and keep at it, because that's what's going to make you stand out in the future.
Awesome, thank you. Now I have a question for you, Austin. But so you did an engineering project that had, I assume, like a good bit of like prototyping or like reworking the code. What was that process of prototyping like, and how does that connect to your career as like a structural designer?
I would say, so the prototyping process that we had was very hands-on. It was a lot of trial and error when it came to learning the systems. Luckily, we had a very fortunate engineering teacher and program at our school to where we had the materials necessary to build whatever we wanted to within reason. So it started out just, basic sketches, having to do a lot of YouTubing. 10 years ago, YouTube wasn't as user-friendly as it is now, but there was a lot of stuff on there that we had to use to learn how to code and how to 3D print anything, really. And so there was a lot of calculations also to figure out how our system would move throughout day to day and remain self-sufficient and self-powered. So from there, we built an early prototype, simple materials, just to plan a concept. And from there, we built another one because the first one ended up not doing what we wanted it to, which we went through that process probably 3 or 4 times, I would say, before we found an area where we felt comfortable with what we had. And I would say when it comes to the career, I'm a structural designer, the process is basically the same. In the engineering world, there's a lot of trial by error, and it's a lot of revising and restructuring and just going along with the process. And so I would say that prototyping for ISEF really taught me how to handle it, that there's going to be a lot of failures and to learn from it, and just move forward with it. So
cool. Danica, like you also in a way did like a prototyping too, and like you did have the 3 projects that you kind of continued. Tell us a little bit about the reason why you picked that project and why you continued it and what that process was like.
Sure. So for background, what inspired the project was there was a lot of tornadoes that came through my hometown in 2011. And after the wreckage of the tornadoes, I was really interested why certain trees broke in certain ways. So for example, like a pine tree would completely snap and then an oak tree would break differently. And so that's kind of what got me thinking, like, okay, why is this happening? Why do different materials behave in different ways? And so the very first project that I did, it was very like rudimentary, very fundamental, just testing the compression and tension forces on different wood types. And then every single year I kind of expanded on that idea. So I started to incorporate fiberglass, which is a composite material, to see what kind of forces it could withstand. And then I changed the shape of the beam to see if that could help. And so every single year it kind of was just like a stepping stone on the previous year. And I guess like a good thing that I learned from that is that like looking back through that process, like nobody's going to know the answers to everything on day one. And so really the whole process of learning is a very iterative process, and you have to start small. And the only way that you can solve a problem is to like break it into manageable pieces. And so, I mean, that was probably one of the things that I enjoyed about it, was just like looking back over the 3 years that I was able to do the project, just to see how far it had come, and to take something from like a very simple idea all the way to like a finished prototype was really cool. And yeah, so what started out was just like a little bit of curiosity about how the world works and why it works that way, really developed into something like really cool and exciting.
Yeah, that is so cool. So see, science fair ideas can come from just a simple question of why did a tree break differently? So always good to pursue those questions that linger in the back of your brain. Sarah, Suma, Danica, you all went to ISEF and happened to go like different years, but to ISEF when it was held in Phoenix, which is where it's being held this year. What might some of our ISEF people this year have to look forward to?
I guess get ready for the heat, because it is very hot there. We, as a team for Alabama, we were able to go to the deserts and ride ATVs there. I don't know if that will happen this year, but that was a lot of fun. Also, my favorite experience about ISEF was Pin Exchange Night, where we got to meet literally everyone from all over the world. And, we're not talking about science. We're not talking about, like, data or anything. We were just getting to know each other and exchanging pins. So that was really, really cool. So, yeah.
Yes, besides the heat, one thing that they did when we were there was that they kind of did like a sports med thing at a baseball game. So that was a lot of fun. So if they do that again, that's something to look forward to. Again, yes, the pin exchange is by far one of my favorite experiences that I've ever experienced. Best night of my life. So if you get to go, definitely look forward to that.
You guys stole my answers. But I would say like going to the desert, they have these huge cacti that you can see. So that was really interesting. And then, yeah, the pin exchange. I think there was, at least when I went, it was over 70 countries that are represented at ISEF. So you get to see people from all different walks of life and cultures. And some people like dress up in their traditional, like I remember the German people wore, I forget what that's called. whatever they wear. But it was cool to see it and get to talk to people. And yeah, you're not talking about science all the time. You just get to connect with people. So that was probably my favorite part.
Okay, cool. Thank you guys so much. We're gonna have one of our students run around with a mic. This is y'all's time to ask questions to these people about their science fair experience, their careers, anything you may be curious about. So just raise your hand if you have a question, and they'll come running around, and we'll pass.
What is your least favorite thing about doing science fair?
I know for me it was the paperwork, ironically enough. So I will answer that question. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same thing. I was good at English, but the writing and it was basically having to write papers for it was probably the least fun in my opinion. I just wanted to get out there and just build stuff. Like I didn't care about the writing about it, but as an engineer, you have to be able to put on paper what you're doing. So it's good to fundamentally understand that. And also, a tidbit of advice: work on your penmanship a little bit, so people can read what you write. So.
How do you get rid of the jitters before the awards?
Oh, over there.
How do you get rid of the jitters before an award ceremony?
Oh, before an award ceremony. I thought you were going to say before judging. I would just remind yourself that whether you win or you lose, it's about having a good time. But winning is really fun too. But also just remind you, you've already done the hard work. Like what you've been judged on is in the past, and there's nothing you can really do to change that. And also, again, like if there's always, unless you're a senior, there's more years to do science fair. And so you can learn from the experience that you had at this science fair, and you can, try something else the next year. But
even if you are a senior, there are plenty of undergrad research opportunities at so many universities that if you want to continue that research project, definitely look at that when you're choosing a school.
What's the longest project that y'all ever seen?
Do you mean longest by like the time that they took on it, or like the tallest?
The time that they took on it.
it might be me. I think that they cap it now at 3 years from what I've heard. Yeah. Yeah, so it might be me. I might be the example. I did it for a long time. So.
What are some tips you can? What are some tips you can give us from your experience?
At least when you're standing in front of the poster, it's not about the science at that point. It's about how you market your poster. So it's knowing how to project yourself, get excited, like, hey, please come look at my poster. Get really, really pumped up, because that's how you draw judges in, and that's how you draw awards in.
I would also like to add, you want to have fun with it. Again, just be curious. Learn something from what every judge tells you. I didn't even know what cellular biology was before I did my project, and now I'm a cellular biologist. So definitely just stay curious and open.
What helped you stand out at your research competitions and reach ISEF?
I think for us, it's just making sure that you did the research and the due diligence to be able to back your project up. If you don't believe in what you're trying to build, then it really shows. So I think if you want to stand out, you definitely need to fully believe and commit to what you're trying to accomplish. And hopefully it helps either you learn or a judge, learn from it. I'm sure I learned some things today. So, yeah.
What's the best part of science fair?
For me, it's building things. It just seriously though, from the concept on paper, or well, from mind to paper to the computer to real life, I think is just one of the coolest things. This is a great industry for that to happen. There's not that many industries where you can just build things, other than art and stuff, but it's the best. So.
My favorite part was definitely the presenting. That's something that I didn't get to do a lot of in undergrad, and I missed it. And now I'm finally getting to do that again, but definitely showing off really what I did and for so long, and getting to share it with the public and teaching people. So that was my favorite part.
I'm going to add real quick too. I think it was really cool. I did see some friendships start blossoming today too, and I think that's also a really cool part about science fair is seeing everyone, and I really enjoyed always meeting other people, even at the state level.
Back then, was science fair hard?
I take offense to the back then. But I will say it was definitely hard. I remember every year I went to ISEF and I did not feel adequate enough to be there. I mean, by the time you get to the ISEF level, you have people practically looking at solving cancer. And so for me, every time I went to ISEF, I didn't go with the mentality of I need to win. I really went with the mentality of, I've done all this hard work and I'm here to show it off and have a good time. And if I win, it's a bonus. And so definitely hard. There's a lot of smart people. Again, it's 60, 70 countries and it's the brightest minds from all those countries at that age. But yeah, I would say, it was really cool to see that there's still people doing hard stuff today. So it builds on it. It gets probably harder every year, I'm sure.
What was the benefit of having a partner?
I think it's just being able to divide the work is one thing, but being able to bounce questions off each other, I think, is a really big benefit. You'll learn as you continue to grow in school, not just in engineering or science fair, but having a partner with you through life is definitely a big advantage, because there's going to be times where you don't feel like you're adequate to be there or whatever the case may be, and they'll be there to motivate you, and then you get the chance to motivate them. It's also very self-rewarding. So.
Hi, huge fan. What were some challenges you all had to endure when you worked on the science fair?
I already spoke about it a little bit, but mine was definitely resources. Again, it's really just finding people to support you and that are willing to help you carry out your project. Another thing is, since I worked with cells take a long time to culture and they fail a lot. So definitely being okay that your experiments fail over and over and over again until you get the results you want.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Okay, how do y'all feel that you're on stage answering our questions?
Honestly, I feel a little nervous. I feel like I'm back in front of the poster again. But thank you, Olivia, and thank you to Auburn for organizing this. This was really fun, and I hope that our little club grows and we get to do this every year.
I would say, speak for all of us, we're extremely grateful. So, yeah.
Any last words of wisdom or encouragement for these students?
Yes, good luck. I had written something down that I would share. And hopefully you remember this and you can use this in any aspect of your life, that your project doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. What matters is that you built something, you tested something, and you questioned something and learned from it. That willingness to experiment, fail, and improve is what turns students into engineers and scientists. Thank you.
I don't want to follow that up because that was really good. But I would just say keep being curious. I did not know when I started science fair that I would end up studying engineering in college. So I would just say keep being curious, keep doing the hard thing. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not worth it. And yeah, have fun and good luck for any of those that go on to ISEF.
Okay, let's give them all a warm welcome or warm thank you for being here and talking to everyone. Now I look out here and I hope that someday you guys will be here right back. Like you're going to be sitting in these chairs. I believe that. So, this junior award ceremony is now going to start. So if you're here for the juniors award ceremony, you can hang out here. If you're here for the senior award ceremony, you can go ahead and head on over. But thank you guys so much. Thank you.